This is 2 Samuel chapters 13 through 14. This is a great rivalry between brothers, sons of David. So chapters 13 starts with Amnon falling in love with his sister, Tamar. He is lovesick. He's obsessed with her. She was the beautiful sister of Absalom, who was the son of David as well. Tamar was a virgin, and she was becoming a woman who was going to be a prize possession for some husband who was coming in. Now the brother of David, Jonadab, the uncle of Amnon, he asked Amnon, "Why do you look so haggard every single morning? What is going on with you?" And Amnon says, "I'm in love with Tamar." And Jonadab was a very shrewd man. He finds a way to help out Amnon. So he devises a plan to get Tamar in the room with Amnon so he can solidify his love for her. His love. Jonadab says, "Go pretend that you are ill. Create an act. And when your father comes and sees you, say to him, 'I want my sister Tamar to come and give me something to eat. Let her prepare the food in my sight so I may eat from her hand.'" So when David comes and sees Amnon, he says, "I would like my sister Tamar to come and make me a special bread in my sight and have her feed me." So David sent word to Tamar. Tamar came and she took some dough. She kneaded it and made some bread in front of Amnon. She took a pan and served it to Amnon, and he refused to eat it. He asked all the servants to leave, and Amnon says to Tamar, "Bring the food to the bedroom so I can eat it out of your hands." That's what Tamar does. She brings it to the bedroom, and this is when he grabbed her by the hand and pulled her in and said, "Come, sleep with me, my sister." "No, my brother," Tamar says. "No, don't force me to do such a thing. This is an evil act in the eyes of Israel. You will be considered a fool. I will be a disgrace. Why would you do this to me? Why would you do this to yourself? Please speak to the king, and he will not keep us from being married." But he refused to listen to her, and he forced the act on her, and the very wicked act. He raped her. Now after this act, Amnon grew more hatred for her than his love for her. He despised her because of his own wrongdoing to her. She reminded him of all the filth that he had inside of him, all the lust. "Get up and go." And she refused to leave. "No, don't send me away. That would be even worse. Let us figure this out together." And he refused to listen to her once again. And he told the servants to come in and take her out of his sight and lock the door behind her. She was wearing an ornate robe, something that the king's daughters wear, the virgin daughters wear. She takes the garments and she tears the robe. She goes down the hall weeping. Her brother Absalom asks her, "Has Amnon done this to you? Has he disgraced you?" And she replies, "Yes." "Don't take this thing to heart." He comforts her. Tamar lives with her brother Absalom in disgrace. From this point on, Absalom does not speak to Amnon, for he disgraced his sister, Tamar. 2 years later, 2 years of harboring bitterness towards Amnon, 2 years of silence. Absalom's sheep shearers come in, and he devises a plan to get Amnon out there. First, he asks the king if King David will join him for the sheep shearers coming in. And he knows the king's going to refuse. The king refuses, says, "We will be a burden on you." And he says, "Well, then let Amnon come and join." And the king doesn't understand why he would join either. But Absalom urges King David to send Amnon with him. And that's what happens. Amnon goes out to help out with the shearing of the sheep, or celebration. They go together to the sheep shears. Now Absalom tells his men, when Amnon is in high spirits, drunk on wine, slay him down, kill him for me, for he has disgraced my sister Tamar. And Absalom's men do exactly what he said. They killed Amnon when he was drunk. Now a report comes to David, and this report says that Absalom has killed all of your sons. This was an exaggeration, of course. A lot of times this happens in reports. They get more attention that way. And Jonadab, at this point, the uncle of Amnon, the brother of David, Jonadab, he was there, and he said he was there during the start of this story, devising a scheme for Amnon to sleep with Tamar. He knew exactly what was happening, that Absalom only wanted him dead for a long time. And he knew it was coming. So he said, this is not the truth. Absalom has only killed Amnon because Amnon has raped his sister. That's why he did this killing. So the truth came out. So King David knows not all of his sons are dead, but the men still weep bitterly for Amnon, for his death. And when Absalom sees how bitterly they weep, he flees to Geshur to King Talmai. And King David mourned many days for his son. He loved Amnon. Even though his wicked act, that was his son. So for 3 years, Absalom was in Geshur, away from Jerusalem. David longed to see Absalom again, but he couldn't cross the border and build this bridge again. So for 3 years they're separated. That's the end of chapter 13. Chapter 14 is Absalom's return to Jerusalem. So this starts with Joab devising a plan to make this happen. Joab knows David the best. He's the commander of David. And he knows that David longs to see Absalom, his son. So he devised a plan. He goes to Tekoa. He goes to Tekoa and he finds a wise woman there. And he tells the wise woman, he said to her, pretend you are in mourning. Dress in mourning clothes and do not use cosmetic lotions. Act like a woman who has spent many days grieving for the dead. Then go to the king and speak these words to him. So all of the words that she spoke was Joab's words, and this was all an act for the king. So the woman of Tekoa goes to King David and falls at his feet to show him respect. And she says, help me, my majesty. What is troubling you? I'm a widow and my husband is dead. My 2 sons got into a fight and one struck the other dead, and now the town is now trying to kill my other son, who is the only burning flame left in my life. May you help me. David says, I will issue an order on your behalf. He will be protected, not a hair on his head will fall on my order. The woman of Tekoa says, let your servant speak a word to my king. This next part is the whole reason why she acted at the start, to get to this point, to bring this word to King David. And he says, speak. And the woman says, why then have you devised a thing like this against the people of God? When the king says this, does he not convict himself, for the king has not brought back his banished son? Like water spilled on the ground, which cannot be recovered, so we must die. But this is not what God desires. Rather, he devises ways so that a banished person does not remain banished from him. And now I have come to say this to my lord the king, because the people have made me afraid. Your servant thought, I will speak to the king, perhaps he will grant his servant's request. Perhaps the king will agree to deliver his servant from the hand of the man who is trying to cut off both me and my son from God's inheritance. And now King David replies and says, do not refuse to answer my next question. Is the hand of Joab in all of this? He knows Joab too well that he discerns what's really going on. The woman answers, as surely as you live, my lord the king, no one can turn to the right or left from anything my lord the king says. Yes, it was your servant Joab who instructed me to do this, and who put all these words in my mouth. Your servant Joab did this to change the present situation. My lord has wisdom like an angel of God. He knows everything that happens in the land. Lots of respect towards King David for seeing this whole setup and plan. As a king, you have to be discerning to run a kingdom correctly. You have to be strong. You have to know, to have eyes everywhere, and a sharp mind to understand what people really want. That's what David has. And the king said to Joab, very well, I will do it. Go bring back the young man Absalom. And Joab fell to the ground to give him respect, said, today your servant knows that he has found favor. He humbles himself and says, I am a very servant of you. This is your word. David says he must not see my face. He must go to his own house. So when he gets to Jerusalem, he goes to his own place. And now it starts to describe who Absalom was. In all of Israel, there was not a man so highly praised for his handsome features than Absalom. From the top of his head to the sole of his feet, there was no blemish in him. He would cut his hair once a year because it was too weighted. 3 sons and a daughter were born to Absalom, and his daughter's name was Tamar, after his sister, and she became a very beautiful woman. Absalom lived 2 years in Jerusalem without seeing the king's face. Absalom sent to Joab in order to send him to the king, but Joab refused to answer. So he sends word again to Joab to see the king, and he refuses to answer again. And he says, look, Joab's field is right next to mine. He's growing some barley. Let's set it on fire. He tells his servant, set it on fire to get his attention. And he does that. And Joab comes to Absalom's house and says, why have you done this? Set my house on fire. And Absalom says, I did this to get your attention, and I want to see the king's face. I have been here for 2 years. It would be better for me to go back to Geshur, my home. I made a home there. So Joab says, very well, I will make a meeting with the king. Absalom says, if I'm guilty of anything, let the king do what he wants to me. Let me face my consequences, even if it's death. Let him do what he will. So after 3 years at Geshur and 2 years in Jerusalem, he's going to confront King David after killing Amnon. Absalom goes and bows down in front of King David, and King David goes up to Absalom and kisses him. That's the end of chapter 14. Chapter 15 is all about a national conspiracy against David and him fleeing from Israel. They turn on him.